I wanna try and take in all the highs, embrace them for more than a moment's time. I want you, please don't move when I push you away. I know I contradict myself some days, but will you ride the lows with me?
Welcome to Mental Health News Radio. I am your host, Kristin Sunanta Walker. Our goal is to help discussions about mental health be a regular part of your daily life, no different than discussions about physical health. Mental illness can be a topic of discussion under the umbrella of mental health, along with so many other topics. This show is the original program on mentalhealthnewsradionetwork.com. Our network of shows are played in over 180 countries and cover more topics under that umbrella than you can possibly imagine. We were talking about mental health long before it became cool and popular to talk about, and thank goodness it has become so popular. We have incredible guests, advocates, patients, experts, people. Thank you for tuning in and enjoy our intro music, a song named Lows, written by Aubrey Toon. You can find her music at www.aubreytoone.com.
That night when I started praying, I cried, will you ride the lows with me? Will you ride the lows with me? When I'm down, my vision gets blurry.
Hi, listeners. I am back with two very awesome people, Sam and Gina of the Autism Rocks and Rolls podcast. Thank you both for coming back.
Yep, we're back.
Thank you for having us. We're very excited to be here.
Again.
And again. And the news is you guys joined the network with your podcast, which is so very cool. And also you had a really awesome thing happen in between the time of joining the network. And I would love for you to share what happened, and I'll add in my bits because I saw some of it too on your Facebook Live.
Yeah, I had the honor and privilege of talking to McFoy. I've already met him once, but I kind of met him again, I guess. It was more of a meet and greet. But now I get to have him on my show on the 13th of July.
That's so cool. And that I want listeners to realize too, like the benefit of being in a group of like-minded people that are all, about a cause like mental health and everything under that umbrella is that you never know who you're going to meet and who's going to do a favor or think of something cool. Because I just asked, I knew that you loved, pro wrestling. And so I asked our podcast, the ANC podcast, if they would, have you on as a guest, and then boom, this whole great thing happened.
Yeah, we had to give Andrew a gift card.
Yeah, we just sent Andrew. I just put it in the mail, I guess, yesterday.
Yeah.
Aw.
Mom, by the way.
Yeah. So I'm Mom. I'm Gina. But yeah, just to kind of piggyback off what Sam said, I never dreamed. I mean, he has loved Mick Foley and really respected him. And, I've always said people.
He used to be my third. I moved up to first after I got to meet him in person. Me after he can take so many bumps.
Yeah, he has just really, really just loved him for so long. And then, when he found out that he had a son that had autism, Sam was like, well, this is even more cool.
Yeah.
I can remember, when Sam was growing up with pro wrestling, my husband and I, when he was 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, we thought, well, he'll eventually grow out of that, but he didn't. And so at first I was like, well, maybe he should move on to something else. But as we, as the years went on, we understood autism more. And, it used to kind of drive me crazy when he would talk about wrestling for 7 hours.
That was the best part, though, driving you crazy.
I mean, it did, but I finally understood. We stopped calling it Sam's obsessed with that. I feel like now that Sam was just practicing for job skills and I wish that everybody thought that. We've had people on his show that were what society calls obsessed with things when they were growing up. And, you know, the Armani Williams, he was obsessed with Matchbox cars, and he now drives a NASCAR.
Yep.
He was just practicing. That's all he was doing. So, but meeting Mick Foley was just like check off the bucket list.
And that was just Andrew saying, okay, I mean, wasn't that how it went? He said, hey, who's your favorite wrestler or something like that?
Sort of. Well, I got
there
this.
was behind the scenes stuff that Sam didn't know was happening.
I got this. And there was some behind the scenes stuff that they told me about. And originally supposed to happen that Saturday, if you remember, actually.
Yeah, it was supposed to happen one time, but something came up for Mick and it was fine. And then Andrew felt so bad because I think
I didn't care. I was just happy. I was like, okay.
Yeah, but he
I met him once. I met him once beforehand, that podcast. I was like, time's again, if not. I have my one time at least.
And now you're
right.
He's when we asked him to be on Sam's show, he said, oh, of course I will be, but I'm not organized, so you have to talk to my booking agent. So he like stepped out of the picture because he was like, they just tell me what to do. So we got that scheduled, and I think that's set for July.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I mean, I remember Andrew had kept tagging me in, in those podcasts where, he does a lot of them on Facebook Live as well. And he was like, this is the one. He's gonna come on. And Sam, you were so calm and cool and collected. It was amazing. And then there's your mom in the background with the camera
and
recording.
At one point you could hear me squeal. Like it was like I cannot believe this is happening. Because
you have a conversation with Mick. I mean, I kind of a little bit of one in the toy pit.
Yeah.
But I gotta have like a full on one.
And now you get to like asking questions. His booking agent said we had 30 minutes. So I was like, Sam, you got to make this count.
Yeah.
I'm not good at that part.
I was going to ask you, Sam, how are you? Because it takes everybody. It doesn't matter what's going on with somebody. It's interviewing people can be just an absolute challenge. So how is it for you, coming up with questions and then waiting for an answer? And how does that process work for you?
Well, I keep I keep always keep my 5 straight questions, like what does having autism mean to you, or whatever disability you have mean to you? Then I'm like, what are your initial thoughts when you learn it? How you think the brain operates?
You have keeper questions.
Yeah. And then it's like, what is the most rewarding, most difficult thing about having your disability? And what advice would you give somebody who just learned they had your disability? I always keep those 5. But then whatever they have done, I always ask questions about that. But then I always ask them then mental health questions, obviously. Well, and then 5 personal ones, like, what's your favorite food? Because I'm a big food junkie.
Same.
And then movie or TV show, always ask that. Vacations, I'm a big guy, likes to travel as well, so that's why I keep that. It looks like they end on a good note, so I always ask them like a good memory or like a funny memory.
That's cool.
Like the ones in between, I've noticed if he knows he's pressed for time, he's getting better at, because he just had Sarah Tomko.
Oh, those are the worst, though. I hate them.
When he always asks, or I ask before he gets started, like, how long do you have? And she was like, well, I have about an hour. And so he did pretty well, though. It was like an hour and 13.
Oh, wow. That's a long one, Sam. That'd be hard for me, too. So,
I don't care. I don't care how long as you want to watch it. Feel free. If you don't, because it's an hour, sorry. That's kind of my
No,
stuff.
I mean, I always do a therapist hour. So like a 50-minute hour is what I do. And I'm really used to that. I have a harder time when I have to cut them short. Now I'm used to doing 30-minute ones. But in the beginning, when I first started doing this, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to stretch this out for an hour. Like, what do I ask? But you get really good at, and your brain works so fast, Sam, that you probably, as they're talking, you're thinking of a new question based on something they just said.
Yep. It's a fast one.
And he combines them too. I've noticed, because a lot of times I'll just leave him alone and I go upstairs, but I stay close in case he needs help with something.
Well, yeah, like the one with the Sarah de Jesus, I needed you for that one. Because that was a tricky one.
That one was
for reasons that probably should not be stated.
No, I think that you can.
Well,
I don't think you have to tell everything, but it was interesting the way it happened. Do you mind if I tell?
I don't care. I just don't know I don't know if G Money would care. Is the problem.
I don't think G Money will care.
Okay.
but he had an interview with an MMA fighter, Serena De Jesus, and then another MMA fighter. His name is Garrett. What was his name? Holev,
and his father Mitch.
And then they call him G Money, and he has Down syndrome. And it was such a contrast because when Sam was interviewing Serena, she's kind of like Sam. She completely embraces autism, and she talks about it. Sam talks about it, and there's no negativity associated with it. And G Money's situation was different. He was diagnosed at birth, and so to him, when we started talking about Down syndrome and autism, he was just like, I'm out. I
really
don't want to talk about this. I want to talk
He
about
felt bad in the end. He apologized. I was like, don't worry about
Bless
it.
his heart. I felt, and so Sam didn't know what to do because he had all of these questions for
right
Honey and his dad, and then it was just not going. And so Sam kept looking at me, and I looked, whispered, do you want me to step in because I can help you? And so Sam and I ended up co-hosted that episode on the fly. Like no prep
because
at
there's
all.
no else. I didn't know what else to do. I was like, help! I don't know what to do here.
But that was fine.
Do I kick him out? I say, G Money, just go, or what do I do?
Yeah, no. His dad completely stepped in, finished the interview. I changed up his questions
A little bit. You
modified him to make them more with MMA instead of Down syndrome, and it ended up working out really, really well.
I didn't notice it was a sad part till the end.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, that's why you need help sometimes, and that's okay. We all need help.
It's so, yeah, exactly. We all do. Exactly. Especially after last year. It's interesting too, because when your brain fires at that rapid pace, it can be really hard to sort of take a beat and wait for an answer or really listen while also thinking of what would be a good next question. It's such good life skills. I mean, I've used it in different jobs I've had. I used it to help me do huge contracts with big corporations where, a lot of money is at stake and a lot of people are talking, and I have to gather all this information, and I would get the contract, and hands down, it was because I learned how to be on the fly in the hot seat doing podcasting.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Did your butt burn?
Yes, it does. Sometimes. My boss one time said, my old boss from Evergo, he said, I think you have wings on your butt. So,
I just asked. I mean, she said hot seat. It's kind of her fault bringing that joke up.
Hey, I like it.
Thank you.
So Sam, how do you feel? Because I know that you do. I want you to talk about this anyway. I know what you do, but tell our listeners a bit about, when you go out and you do speaking in front of a group, how are you in those situations and how do you prepare?
Well, we're not doing a lot of speaking right now. We're trying to, granted, but it's not face. But the good news about that is Thursday, I get to do my first speaking engagement, finally.
Well, you've done other small
ones.
I mean, this is a pretty big
one.
one.
Like my first big one. I get to speak to the Chamber of Commerce in Linton at our local Mexican restaurant called Casey Villa.
Mm-hmm.
And I probably said it wrong, knowing me.
Yeah,
they'll forgive you.
This is the first one, and we're very excited that he gets to.
Should I go my sombrero?
Go wear your sombrero? Maybe
you
do have a sombrero.
I do have a sombrero.
Gina, how do you keep yourself, proud mom sitting there from containing, your excitement?
Oh my gosh. Well, I'll give you an example. He did so I don't know if we had told you this, but he entered through his JAG program. It's Jobs for American Graduates when he was,
she doesn't contain it. That's the politest way.
I don't contain it very well at all. When he recently graduated high school, and I think, you could hear me really, really well, right?
Well, I heard you on graduation. I heard you with the JAG. You acted ridiculous.
Oh my gosh. Well, what happened was with the he had entered his business into through JAG. He ended up winning his region. He ended up winning regional, and then he went on to state, and he ended up placing second in the whole state of Indiana for his entrepreneurship project. And so he was actually guest speaking in my classroom, and his JAG teacher had emailed me and said, okay, they're going to announce the winner today at 10:30. And I was like, but Sam's here. should I take him back over to the school? And she was like, no, you guys can just tune in and watch it. I almost passed out. I couldn't contain myself. The kids
You're
have
like, thank goodness this isn't in person.
so I don't. I mean, I don't contain
She's
it.
a proud mama, period. Everywhere
very
she goes,
proud.
she's a mama.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
She's a mama everywhere she goes, believe me.
Yeah.
So when you go to do some, even if it's a smaller speaking gig, there's going to be people that come up and ask questions after. I mean, I know you haven't done a lot yet, but it's a lot of energy that goes into preparing for a talk, and then you do it and you're kind of, you're all buzzed out because you just did this talk, and then people come up after and want to ask questions. How is that for you, Sam?
We definitely prepared, but then we always just we mainly try to open the door to others and let them ask questions.
Are there kids your age or younger that come up that are on the spectrum and ask you, different things about what they're, whatever they're going through in their life?
Not that I can think of at the moment.
Well,
You might have something.
I've noticed a lot, like virtually and through social media and through email. He's gotten, oh my gosh, over the last however long he's been doing this, 2 or 3 years, we've gotten a massive amount of emails from people. I just got one yesterday from a lady that just ran across his podcast interviewing Temple, and she was just blown away, and she's left me several messages, and because it's like, this is amazing. And so that's a daily occurrence. I mean, he gets lots and lots of feedback from people on the spectrum,
and that's what I want, really.
Yeah.
So doing a talk, what do you pick as, as like a theme? I mean, obviously you're talking about autism, but what is within that? What is, like a main, let's say, title that you would give a talk you would do?
And I'm not broken. I don't need to be fixed. But it's also
I love that.
But it's also my episodes. Like if I bring up, maybe I sometimes go into the topic furthermore. Like with my TED talk, I did an episode on pinball and using the analogy of pinball, and I went into further detail with that. So that's kind of what inspires me.
How about when you're looking out at a bunch of people and are you gauging their reaction to what you're saying and then kind of feeding off of that? Or just tell us, like, what is it like for you standing up there, what you're feeling when you're doing that and you're looking at everyone's faces?
I mainly just go into the conversation and just act like I'm in my room, really, and just talk it out. And we'll know I kind of ask for feedback. I'll ask him, did I suck? Like, be honest with me.
I think that's what
I was getting to. I wanted to hear that right there.
He does.
Like, tell me, if I suck, tell me. If I say I rock it, tell me. He ain't gonna hurt me.
He was interviewed.
I've been through too much to been hurt.
Yeah, no. That's a good point. Like, he's kind of toughened up, with stuff. But the funniest thing was when he had to interview for when he was with regional. He had to interview. He had to do a virtual interview. And I think on both interviews, the regional and the state, he asked when the interview was over, like, done, Sam should have hung up. He said that he's asked. So I kind of like to know how I did.
Good for you.
They loved it. They absolutely loved that he had enough courage to say, can you give me some feedback? I never would do that in an interview. I just wanted to do it and leave, and then
right.
But he wanted to know, and that's probably part of the reason he got so far in the process.
Well, I think I want you to share a little bit about, how far you've come with this journey of what you've been doing, because, it takes courage, it takes confidence to do it without any kind of mental health challenge, and so the fact that, I look at all the podcasters on my network and I'm like, oh my gosh, these, someone's dealing with terminal cancer and she's a therapist, and yet she's out there every day talking about her mental health struggles during this time, and somebody else, working with refugees and their mental health. And then what you guys do, it's that little or a lot of something extra that people are doing. And I think it's really good to look back and see how far you've come. So can you kind of talk about and I'm asking this in the worst way, Sam, I'm sorry, how you started this, why you started it, and where you're at today.
I started to remove the negative stigma of autism because actually, can we talk about that post? There's a perfect post that explains it.
Well,
Yeah, tell us.
Yeah, go right ahead, babe.
I gotta figure it out.
Do you want me to
Yeah,
fill in the blanks?
fill in that post, please.
You can jump in.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, like he had said before too, this whole thing started as a hobby because he really loved his media club and they did podcasting. And then it's kind of long story short, he started his own and I think we all saw opportunity.
Yeah, meant to be a hobby, but turned to a business unexpectedly.
It was kind of just the opportunity. And then when he started getting sponsors, that's when it changed. I mean, and really joining your network, honestly, was something else kind of in the mix that I felt like he got to the point where, okay, let's do this. You can now, you've made this a business. You're an entrepreneur. You have, monetary wise, you can do it. I think you should do this. And so that has helped. But the post that he's referring to I just think it proves why Sam is doing
it proved my point.
Yeah, absolutely. There was I gotta try to get it right too.
I got it.
It was a post. Yeah, let him pull it up because I don't want to say it wrong. It was a negativity. There were very negative words in the ad about autism, basically.
It says, and I quote, "Pregnant woman warned taking paracetamol increases baby's risk of autism, ADHD. I'm sorry for part of my language. What's the damn risk?"
Yeah. Pregnant women warned taking paracetamol, which must be some sort of like prenatal vitamin or something. And so, quote, increases baby's risk of autism and ADHD. So within this ad, they use warned, which is a negative word, and they've used risk. And so
and that's my point. What's the risk?
Yeah. As I read this, I'm thinking, what are they trying to say? Like if somebody would have said to me before Sam was born, now look, this is a really bad thing. Your baby's going to be born with autism. What do you want to do? This is feeding into that.
Yep.
That I'm trying to remove here. That's my competition right there, buddy.
Yeah. That's his competition. Like that's what he is up against.
Where I put that as one of the people.
This ad on Facebook that people trust and people are going to go look and they're going to be like, oh yeah, I better not take that because, oh my gosh, my baby can't have autism. Mine did. And
it's so amazing. You guys are so amazing that you think that way. You get it, right? That you have to almost rewire your brain to see how much stigma is put out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, constant. I mean,
constantly.
It's absolutely constant, and it's just.
I'll show you improvement more. I'm just gonna sound like a really bad joke, but it's true. If I was a father, I'd want my child to have like an extra ability.
Right.
Like a disability.
Oh yeah, I mean that just goes back to disability equals ability.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. Like I want my child to have that. Like. Yeah. I know it sounds like mean and all, but I'm trying to figure out the right word here. Give me a break.
Right. Well, I think about it too like this. I mean, there's so much out there in society about that. Let's take a topic, totally different, but also shaming. People fat shame people all the time. And they don't realize they're doing it. They will say to someone that they don't even know, oh, you might have a thyroid issue or something like that. And you're like, the person is just standing there going, you just made a judgment about me based on how I look. That is so shaming because in our society, things like being overweight, having autism, not that I'm equating the two at all, having depression, having whatever is a big wrong. And that you should want to get away from those things. It's never about acceptance of whatever somebody is and whatever they've got going on. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's never let's tap into what I don't want to say what they have, but what they are. Why
Exactly.
are we ignoring? Like, if we want to take away autism, then probably everybody needs to get rid of their iPhone, because I guarantee people in Silicon Valley, they all have autism.
Yes, they're all on the spectrum. I know. Agreed.
You should probably turn your electricity off, because you know, Edison, Einstein, they had it too.
Yep.
I mean, that's what frustrates me so much, is people don't understand people that have a brain that has the definition of autism. There are so many things they
brain
can do,
or as what side calls a disabled brain.
Yeah, but I don't know what is disabled about you.
Well, that's what's interesting too, is it's called autism. Yeah, it's called autism spectrum disorder. And I always wonder, that in itself is a shaming term, because we're saying that this brain is disordered, this person is disordered because they have autism, and that in and of itself is a red flag for me.
Yeah, just get rid of the disorder. There's no need for that.
Exactly. Autism spectrum. I mean, that's it. Which we're moving to, which is great. But
it is. It's just, when I wake up though, of course I look at Facebook and then I see that ad. I was like, oh my gosh, I was on fire.
Yeah, you had to. Did you put the mad face, or did you put the mad like the butch face with the blanks?
Probably the blanks.
You probably did.
Well, you guys are doing such great work. And, just listeners, the interesting thing too, is the minute we sent out an email to everyone on the network saying, hey, this is who just joined, blah, blah, blah. Now you guys are going to be asked to be on a whole lot of shows because of that. And that's, again, the beauty of, so you get to reach other audiences. I mean, some of the people that want you to come on are former police officers that, have PTSD or addiction struggles, or their audience is completely different than what, than maybe your audience. And yet that's exposure for what it is that you guys do and what you talk about. Now,
are we allowed to send messages if we find a show on the network that we think is kind of interesting?
Absolutely. You guys can
cool.
Have contact with anybody. You do not have to go through me. I often find out that, people are doing projects together, and I find it out 6 months after they launch the project, and I think that is so great. I didn't even know that was going on.
That's awesome. We've loved that. We have Sam and I will sit down and try to have like an official meeting once in a while. And we had one today. And we reorganized some things, and we figured out we have like 6 projects going on right now. Yeah. So we'll see.
Well, I'm excited to support what you're doing. Everyone's excited to have you here. And please tell our listeners where they can find out more about you and your show, other than anybody can go to MHNR Network and see it there too. But where else can they find you?
Gotcha. Podbean, Spotify, iTunes. I think some news for you are actually iHeartRadio, Pandora.
Nice.
Not there. Listen notes.
Excuse you.
Well, at least I'm admitting it. Listen,
I'm not editing that.
Of course.
I don't think you should either.
I don't care. Go ahead. Don't
just go ahead.
That's typical me, dude. Anyway, it's on Podbean as well. And I just spat across the room. What do you know? YouTube and
Listen Notes.
Listen Notes, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what
Very
I
cool.
else.
And your his website.
Yeah, the website, www.autismrocksandrolls.com, where it has everything, man.
That is so cool. I'm excited. And thank you guys again for coming on.
Thank you.
Of course.
We so appreciate what you've done for us too. Thanks a lot.
Listeners, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Mental Health News Radio.
But will you ride the low, low, lows with me? Will you ride the low, low, lows with me?
One thing you can always count on at Mental Health News Radio Network and my show is that there will always be dogs around. Why? They are natural healers, excellent for your mental health. The original therapy dog Miles has something to say in just a moment. For now, please check out all of our amazing shows at mentalhealthnewsradionetwork.com and all your favorite podcast apps. Until next time, I'm Kristin Sonanta Walker, and thank you for listening.
Me tonight, and I can ride the low, low, lows lows with me. I can ride the low, low, lows with me. Till my vision clears up perfectly. I can ride the low, low, lows with me.
Good boy.